Today's Talk About It Tuesday question is, there is mixed messaging from the internet real estate gurus. Some say you should never sell real estate, while some believe you should only flip real estate and collect big profits. What do you think? Okay, so I think that in order to make that determination, first of all, it shouldn't be never on either side. But in order to make a decision as to whether you want to buy and hold real estate or you want to buy and flip real estate will depend upon your goals, will depend upon the region that you're in where you have the ability to invest, and weighing the pros and cons of each. So if you're going to buy and flip, there are certain conditions that must be met. So you have to be in a place where there is a high demand for real estate, right? Because you have to have potential buyers to flip to who are in an economic condition, which means the economy has to be good, where they can afford to buy it, and the cost of borrowing is low and borrowing is relatively easy. So if that condition doesn't exist, you don't have a choice. You're not going to buy and flip, because you will buy and it will sit on the market. And while it sits on the market, there are holding costs. What are holding costs? Mortgage, taxes, insurance, maybe security, maintenance costs, especially if you have to manicure shrubs or lawn. So you have all these costs that will cut into your potential profits. And there is the selling cost. So you have to pay a broker to show it, to list it, to show it, to do these things so that you can sell it. And then there is capital gains tax, which is short-term capital gains if you're flipping it, because it'd be in less than a year. So you have high taxes and you no longer have an asset, right? You have cash. Cash depreciates in value because of inflation. So you went from having an asset that potentially would have increased over time to cash, which decreases over time, meaning you'll have to find another place to put that cash. So that's the buy and flip model. Buying and holding, which means that you'll buy an asset, some real estate, that will grow in time in equity, again, depending on the conditions, the economic conditions. And I'm going to give you a little case study where it doesn't quite fit so perfectly. Usually grows in equity, meaning that the value increases over time if the area is if desirable, right? And you also collect income from it in the form of rent. You also get tax write-offs in the form of, it could be depreciation, it could be maintenance and repairs, it could be the interest on the mortgage. There are a ton of tax write-offs that you get with it also. It gives you the ability to borrow against it, the equity in there, so you can pull the cash out of the walls. It's adds to your net worth because it's an asset. It's intergenerational wealth because you can pass it on. So there are advantages to that. What are the disadvantages of holding? There are expenses that you will carry for the rest of your life. So eventually you'll pay off the mortgage, but there will always be taxes. There will always be insurance. You have to learn to manage the property, meaning you have to be able to take care of it so that it does continue to produce and it does maintain its value. That means maintenance, repairs, upgrades over time to plumbing, electrical, the roof, all these things. You'll have to manage your tenants and make sure their needs are met so that they continue paying and they want to stay. So that comes with its own set of issues. But it's never fixed in stone. So if your goal was to buy, and I'll give you an example, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, if I buy a piece of real estate, I'm going to try to hold it and gain equity from it and gain income from it. When does that change? I'll give you a real story. In 2006, I bought a mixed-use property, meaning it had a commercial property on the ground floor and 2 residential properties. I bought it because at the time I had the #1 hostel in New York, which was called Crown Brownstone. Might still be able to find it somewhere on the internet, but it's been 20 years, right? So in my expansion, that was my 3rd location. I bought the building because of that. Never rented out the commercial space, converted the 2 residential spaces into vacation suites. And this is long before there was an Airbnb, right? And back in 2006, 2007, I was getting $10,000 rent from these 2 units where, average rent probably, if I had rented them out regular, maybe $1,500, maybe that much. But I was getting $10,000, so it made sense for me to, to hold it and get the rent. Fast forward, 2008, we went into a credit crisis, a deep recession based on mortgages failing. So, and let me just back up. I bought the building for $380,000 in 2006. Someone offered me $575 a month later. So that's how much equity this thing had. So fast forward, 2008, we hit the Great Recession, and I was still doing well for a while. 2009, the credit crisis hit Europe. My main customers were coming from Europe. All of a sudden, the business is going down. I said, no problem. I'll borrow from the equity in that property, right? Because that's one of the advantages of holding. I'll borrow from the equity. No, banks were not lending at that time because the whole market was crashing because of mortgages. So they weren't lending. So I said, okay, well, I'll just put it on the market and sell it. Well, guess what? Because the market was down, meaning now there's no demand because there are no buyers on the market. You have greater inventory than you have demand. You have difficulty borrowing, and the cost of borrowing has gone up. So therefore, the value of the property diminished significantly. No one offered me more than $320,000. I paid $380 for it. Could have got $575 a few years back. All of a sudden, I couldn't get anything for it. So I had to hold it. But let's see how cycles change. Fast forward again, 2019. Still had other properties, but I wanted to maximize the value. This one wasn't pulling that much money because I didn't have the hostels anymore. It was just pulling regular rent. It was more of a drain than it was an asset for me. But it had a lot of equity in it. Didn't produce a lot of income, but had a lot of equity. So another building I had, that neighborhood changed, and I wanted to maximize the value of it and renovate it from all 4 floors, just total renovation, make it a nice high end so I could get more rent. So what did I do? I sold that one. Now I sold that one for $980,000. Look at the difference. I couldn't get $320,000 several years prior. Now I got $980,000 for it. Took that money, renovated the other property, was able to get a DSCR loan on the other property, which is a loan based on the potential income of the building, which meant I could now take that money back out and put it in my pocket, and to produce greater income from that building. So even though I usually hold, if I had an opportunity to sell because it would get me greater income somewhere else using that as leverage, then I will sell. So it's never fixed in stone. Values are not fixed in stone. Whether or not it will produce is never fixed in stone, but you should basically have a goal of, I'm going to buy and hold, buy or flip. Understand the difference. To me, buy and flip it's like trading stocks. I don't trade stocks. I invest in stocks and hold them for the long term. Same with properties, hold it for the long term and let it grow over time. But you have to decide which one makes more sense for you. So it's never that absolute. You should always hold forever. Sometimes it loses value. It doesn't make sense. Or sometimes you can sell it and get greater value somewhere else. And then there's sometimes when the market just doesn't support what your efforts are on either side. And so you have to make that decision. So if an internet guru is saying it's one or the other, it's probably because they're trying to sell you something that's related to that one side. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Please like, share, subscribe, keep the questions coming, and I'll see you next Tuesday.